I didn't expect to be back this quick, Gamecock fans, but here, South Carolina has another transfer portal addition to its class. It's a defensive lineman, D tackle, maybe a big end and a 3-4 as well. I told you earlier about Terry Webb. Let me get some clarification on that because that was at the end of the last video. If you're watching these in order, if you're not, that's fine. I was kind of expressing disappointment that he went to SMU. Well, lo and behold, and I put this on thebigspur.com. If you're a VIP member, you already know about it if you've been on the site. But apparently the Gamecocks dropped him and before he visited SMU. So just was told there were some things there they weren't comfortable with. This is what South Carolina does under Shane Beamer. They vet and vet thoroughly, and if there's any red flags, they just move on, no matter how good the player is. And that's served Shane Beamer quite well to the tune of 5 ranked wins, 3 top 10 wins, a 29-22 record in those first 4 years, which is tied with Spurrier now after the bowl loss, but was the best after 50 games. I mean, that's the proof is in the pudding when you look at the transfer portal guys they've gotten from all levels and how, for the most part, they've all worked out. And most importantly, when you look at last season, a 3-3 start, 1-3 in the SEC with 2 gut-wrenching losses, and a struggling quarterback at times, you know, you don't have that culture and that character. You probably just kind of mail it in halfway through the year, because the chances are, no matter how good Carolina was down the stretch, and they were quite good, 3-loss team, as we found out the hard way, and that's a different topic to discuss. I don't agree with that. Hard to get in the playoff, and that's what they were shooting for internally. People don't talk about that, but from like the off-season summer on, South Carolina felt like they were, the players, the coaches, they felt like they were a playoff team. They didn't say it, but they felt like they were, and they ended up being really good. But you have to keep your team together in tough times, because tough times are going to happen in the SEC. You need a team that's going to show up, et cetera. So that's what happened with Terry Webb, the kid from Texas State. We wish him the best at SMU. I think he's a hell of a player. I hope he goes to SMU and has a great run through the ACC, and just wish him the best. I don't know what those red flags were, so not gonna speculate on that. It could be anything, as far as with the NIL world and all that good stuff. So he's out. He's been out, and I got that text this morning. So you got to fill the spot, right? And if you don't want to wait until the next portal window, which if they have a great one that comes along, they'll pick up another one in that next portal window. But a kid from Bowling Green, Davonte Miles, is a player that they've had on the radar for a while. Mississippi State wanted him pretty badly as well. A big, what I call a jumbo athlete. He's 6'4", 280, listed 6'5" on the Bowling Green official website. We'll call it 6'4", 275, 280. Bowling Green, as we know, scared the you-know-what out of a lot of teams this year, including Penn State and Texas A&M on the road. Sometimes they didn't play all that well in the MAC, but they had a good team and a good season. Don't think that matters. I mean, Utah State was pretty bad this year, and we're all fired up about Faison, but Raul Faison, the running back South Carolina guy. But you watch some clips of this guy. I think when you look at him, you can see the athletic upside. Coming out of high school, River Road, Michigan, he was a basketball player, which you always want. TJ Sanders was a lot like this kid coming out of high school. Basketball guy. Just you saw the athletic upside, and they just developed him. Tracy Rocker and Will Muschamp on the old staff, and then when the new staff got here, they really wanted TJ for that reason. That's a big athletic dude that all the coaches love, and he worked his way into being what could be a first-round draft pick, maybe second. TJ was really, really good, really good. And so you want guys like that are light on their feet. Now, this kid, Miles, has been in college for 3 years. Probably not quite as far along as TJ was, but in that 3-4, playing a big end position, when you watch some of the clips, and these are just highlights, I haven't seen him take on 200-300-pound offensive lineman on a double team inside like you can do sometimes at tackle in the SEC, but he's light on his feet. He's got long arms, good swim move, and a couple of the clips. Good at backside pursuit of ball carriers. In other words, the play goes away from him, and he's right there tracking the guy down. Has the athleticism to do that. I think there's some rawness there that they'll have to coach him up with. But he signed today. By the way, yeah, did I say that? Did I say South Carolina signed him, or was the intro that long? Because I rambled all over the place. Davonte Miles from Bowling Green has signed with South Carolina, 6'4", 275, from Michigan. I like the fact that he's from Michigan too, and I'll tell you why. Some states in the Midwest, you're not all that fired up about D linemen. It's not like a big D line place. But Michigan is, they've almost quietly put out Illinois and Michigan in the Midwest, and of course Ohio, put out D-line talent. The kid from Kentucky, the big Deion Walker, the big NFL guy Kentucky had on their D-line, Michigan kid. Payne from Alabama, who was at Alabama this year and transferred, and now he's back with Big Blue in Ann Arbor, went with the Wolverines through the portal this past year. He's from Michigan. They put out D linemen up there. I think it's because it's kind of a basketball state too. Around Detroit, you got a lot of basketball talent, obviously. So a lot of these guys play basketball, and that's what, like I was saying about Sanders, that's what this guy definitely did. So I think that, you get him in here, this is not like the linebacker Okoronkwo where I would necessarily say, oh, he's right there. You got to get more out of him to make him a starter. This guy's probably a little bit lower floored, even though he's older. But you never know. It's an intriguing pickup because the athleticism's there. I also, I'm not saying that. I mean, Mississippi State's defense probably would have used him at end, but they're an SEC team that needs D linemen, and they're evaluating too. I trust South Carolina's evaluations, but I also think that it's nice sometimes when you look at another SEC program that has a dire need on the inside that they wanted him as well. So that's just a little thing to put in your pocket, about it. But you have him coming in. You have Gabriel Brownlow Dindy, who was a 5-star out of high school, who was at A&M. That's a nice couple of guys, and I'll also share with you as well. I've gotten some really good early feedback on Xavion Hardy, the top JUCO defensive lineman who Carolina flipped back from Mississippi State. They say he's gotten there and looks like $1 million. And I was told today, don't be surprised if he starts. And that's good. Hardy's going to have to put on probably about 10 pounds of muscle. But he's kind of built sort of similar to the guy they got today, in that he's got long arms, kind of 6'4"-ish, 6'5"-ish, 285, 290. A lot of Carolina's D linemen that they've brought in, Christian Ingram is built that way, as well as Caleb Williams. And Caleb, of course, is already there. Ingram's in the spring. But Caleb Williams went through bowl practice, which is good. It's good to get a head start, especially if it's a position that's kind of wide open where you lost some guys. Sometimes those freshmen get that head start, and by the time the season rolls around, they're grizzled veterans. And Caleb, if I had to compare, Caleb Williams is a lot like this guy today that they got out of the portal for Bowling Green, and like Xavion Hardy. They're very similar guys. Davonte Miles is this guy's name. You want to say Devonte Hyatt, Devonte Wyatt, Devonte this, Devonte that, but Davonte Miles. Because like when you start getting into Devontes and Miles, you start Kenny Miles, Devonte Holloman, Devonte Harris, there's a lot of those that I have to keep up. Devonte Miles is this guy's name from Bowling Green. So Travian Robertson's got some raw materials to work with now. I feel much more comfortable about the numbers. With Webb, hey, look, I think it's actually, as disappointed as people could be, and myself included, that, hey, this was a good player and a 315-pound space eater in the middle, and he's athletic and productive and old. You like that guy as a player, but that's all I was just looking at from that standpoint. If he's not a fit for the program, you don't want to do anything to mess that up. I mean, we see it in football, basketball, name your sport in the portal era. You can land a lot of guys that are good and talented, but if they don't fit what you do, you can that leads to losing games quickly. Quickly. I'm not saying that you take Boy Scouts that can't play. I'm not saying that. You got to be able to play. The ideal guy that you take out of the portal is like a Demetrius Knight Jr. That guy can play. There's no question. He's a great athlete. He's a great football player, but he's also a high character guy. Rocket Sanders is another example of that. That guy can play. He's a hard worker and a baller and loves football. Those types of intangibles, and there are a lot of guys like that out there. You don't have to sacrifice your culture standards these days to find good players. You may not. It may not be that the hype train chugs through Columbia on portal signing day because of it. Because you may get a guy from Bowling Green, a guy from Western Kentucky, a guy from Troy, and go after it. Charlotte or James Madison or wherever. Yeah, I did mention James Madison guy, but that doesn't mean anything when it comes to winning and losing. Winning and losing is based on what this game is, which is talent maximization. So back to Miles, there is some talent maximization that needs to be done. He's got some developing to do in this program. Bowling Green, good job. He's going to be used here differently than at Bowling Green, and I just think that's another piece to the puzzle as they try to kind of restock that D line. And even if they'd have gotten Webb, I was kind of intrigued by this guy. I didn't know if the space and the numbers would work out. But as a player, when you're trying to kind of get to, you got four. If you can get to 5 or 6, you can rotate. You're in the same spot you were in last year. It's hard to replace TJ Sanders. And it's hard to replace a guy like Tonka Hemingway, who's a big play kind of guy. I mean, how many big plays did that guy have when he was at South Carolina? Nose for the ball, great athlete, that kind of stuff. Hard to replace those guys. But you don't have to, carbon copy them. You can have good players that are good at other, in their own right in there. So you got Barrett, Goodwine, Nick Barrett, Monkel Goodwine, Xavion Hardy, Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, and now Davonte Miles as your older D lineman, and Rondarius Porter, and then Caleb Williams and Christian Ingram. So Travian Robertson's room's getting there. Like I said, if a big-time D tackle fell in their lap and they pursued it and got him, I could see them adding another one. Other than that, in the next period, I believe they're done for now on the interior of the defensive line. Waiting on Brandon Cisse, maybe one more out there on defense, but they're done on offense for now. And I think that when all is said and done, you look at this portal class and we'll see on all of them, just like any recruit. But I think they did a heck of a job, just like last cycle when people were kind of freaking out around Christmas and New Year's. They finished strong. And I knew this week would be very critical for the Gamecocks this week. And, last week when they got back from the bowl, which was an unfortunate loss. All right. So JC Shurburtt here with you again on a Saturday. It's been an eventful Saturday. If there's anything else, I'll certainly rock and roll right here. Chief Sports South Carolina, Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Download the Chief Sports app, also thebigspur.com. Use code BIGSPUR50 to get this information quicker on the website to interact with me and Hill McGranahan and everybody else. We certainly do appreciate everything that you guys have. I just got a Twitter thing where they're going behind the scenes on Carson Beck's $4 million deal. Man, I'm going to talk about that on Inside the Gamecocks, the show on Monday, maybe even JC and Morgan if we can get around to it. I don't know where Mike's at this week, but certainly going to try to do that as well. Well, Hopefully, I'm talking to you again because that usually will mean with one of these types of videos because that usually means that the Gamecocks have gotten a commitment. But I'll be along with other topics as well. JC Shurburtt signing off. Have a happy Saturday, everyone, and surprise, surprise, there's another one in the boat for the Gamecocks.